So Erin, so appropriate to be here by the sea with
Yes.
you. Goodness, do I love your art. Goodness, honestly.
Thank you.
So Shellscapes is the name of the collection that
Mm-hmm.
I now am a happy owner of, not one, but a couple pieces.
Yes,
Yes. Which look beautiful in my home. I'm so thrilled, absolutely thrilled. But how did it start? I mean, have you always been an artist? Tell me, like, the germination of the whole idea for Shellscapes and all that.
Yeah. Well, I grew up on the Jersey Shore in Spring Lake, New Jersey, and
Baby.
I'm a total water girl,
Yeah.
and I think if you tap my veins, it would be salt water.
Same.
And I've always been obsessed with shells and the atmospheric patterns inside them. And while everybody was always looking for the perfect shell, I was always looking at these broken bits that had these beautiful moody color palettes and whatnot.
The purples, the blues.
The clams, and so I've just always been fascinated by that idea, but I never really found the medium that I felt like had the fluidity and like that lustrous kind of appeal that shells have. And so I was a painting major in college. My husband and I have a graphic design studio the last 22 years, but I've always just done travel art on the side. And then I finally started to explore encaustic for this series.
Caustic.
And caustic.
Yeah, so tell me the encaustic process.
So encaustic is you take beeswax, you melt it down with a damar resin, and you can colorize it with anything but acrylic. And so I colorize it with oil paints, and I work with little hot pots of wax, and I'm brushing it on, and it's cooling as soon as I'm doing that, and then I fuse them together. So for Shellscapes, the name kind of just evolved because the first one I ever did, I started off with a little piece of wampum shell, which is my mom's favorite.
Yeah, I
with
love
the purples
wampum.
and the whites and that little creamy, creaminess.
And you made me one too.
Yes,
I love that.
And so I just I started with them, and then we realized that they all looked like some sort of escape, be it a landscape or a shellscape or a seascape. And so then it was like just a natural. I was like, they're shellscapes, like.
and it's a perfect name, and I'm surprised it wasn't already a part of the dictionary, because it's such a perfect blend of a beautiful landscape and then the interiors and the color and the vibrancies of a shell naturally.
Yeah.
I love it. So,
well, and the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that because every painting starts with a shell. So I'll pick up a shell.
That's the inspiration.
And that's the inspiration. And whether it's just a tiny part of it or the mood of it, the color palette, but I often design my paintings so it's 1/3 and 2/3 in composition, because at least 90 to 95% of them rotate in two orientations. So the water or the land can actually look like it's coming at you or receding, or, because I live in Colorado, a lot of times it can look like snowfields and then a stormy mountain sky, but then you flip it down and it looks coastal. And so I love that idea of having people kind of look through a different lens to see something that they thought was so obvious, and then they see it a different way and they're like, oh,
right.
wow.
Exactly. No, they're really stunning, and each one is completely unique, just like a seashell.
Yeah.
And you're not always sure exactly how it's going to come out. It's not like you can say, here's a shell, here's it exactly, because you have to trust the process of the wax, right?
Yeah.
And so.
Oh yeah, because there's not a ton of control. It's this ebb and flow process. So I can brush it on, and then as I fuse it, I get it to a point where I feel like that's a good spot. And then as it cools, the beeswax contracts, and so then it will pull the pigment. And so it's this complete ebb and flow it's like a dance between, it's a collaboration with the beeswax for certain.
Yeah.
And then the way that I work is really thin and smooth, and then I usually do my painting so that way you can kind of high shine and buff parts of it. Just like when you look inside of a shell, most of it's matte, and then you'll get a sliver of shininess. And so I like to play that whole idea all the way through it.
Yeah. So it's a real collaboration with nature.
Yeah.
And you're so earthy, crunchy nature, and and a snowboard instructor in Aspen,
Way
in
back
your
in the day.
previous life, right?
Yeah.
And can snow also be one of your scapes? I mean, do you think you'll ever do a series like that? It almost seems like snow.
Yeah, I mean, I have some. There's this commission I've done for this neurology center in Aspen that there's one that is just real. It's like a huge field of white and just has this really subtle gray and purple in it. So it has like, it could look like that sliver of purple sky with the little bit of the gray mountains. So yeah, like I'd love, you know, there's all kinds of ideas of other natural elements. But that's the thing. Like my art is very nature inspired
and
like,
not forced. Really, it's a very gentle, it seems, and not forced. I mean, you're somehow just accentuating what is, but you're doing it. But it's, I don't know. It's just the gentility of the process to me is beautiful.
Oh,
and the way
thank you.
Yeah. And so let's talk about the Neurology Center.
Oh,
so you and I are big believers in art as a healer, as art for people's souls, as art as transformative. And so you did a show with a center, the Neurology Center, for that reason?
Well, so I had done the first Shellscape show was a couple years ago, and it was 2 gallery rooms. It was 52 paintings, and so what I didn't realize at the time was, of course, at first it was the first solo show I had done, you know, since college, and I didn't tell anybody about it until it hung. Just to make sure that it was going to be okay.
Yeah,
and
so a big unveiling right
yes,
there.
Yes, a big unveiling. But what I got were, I received letters from people, and people I didn't even know came up to me at the openings, and they're like, I can't describe it, but I'm just so touched and moved. Like, this has such a deeply tranquil, even the more stormy looking paintings have this deeply tranquil feel to it. And so, you know, I was totally honored that people reacted to the work that way.
Yes,
and
wonderful.
And so what I didn't realize was Dr. Brooke Allen, who's a neurologist in Aspen Valley, had seen the show, and so she contacted me about a year later when she was building a brand new neurology center. And you know, she called me and she's like, "There's so much evidence about the healing power of art on the brain, and I've never seen anything as serene and tranquil as yours." And I was like one of those.
Did she just call me?
Did she just call me?
And did she just say that? And have I found my track right
Yeah.
now? I mean,
it was
artful
so
always, right?
Yeah, and for me, I just realized that art was always what I did to kind of make my own inner peace. You know, it is like, it is what soothes my soul.
Right.
I just didn't know that it could soothe other people's souls.
Isn't that beautiful?
So what she did was, it's not just a show. She commissioned 20 pieces. So the entire center, all the main areas, the hallways, even the restrooms are all my artwork.
Amazing.
And so she's
Wow.
all about whole brain wellness. And she's got a series on that, and then she's now has this neuro spa aspect of it as well. And so it's beautiful to see, because it makes such a difference when you have multiples in a space.
Yes.
And it creates that soothing setting. And I think that has a lot to do with the beeswax, and that just they're real lustrous, they're real ethereal. Like, you see into it in layers. It's hard to capture it in just a photo. There's something you really need to see in person, but they do. Overall, that's what everybody says is like, oh, it just has such a peaceful feeling to it.
And so, yeah, you have to see it in person, but given that, you still worked with me quite remotely.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I loved that, because I sent you swatches of the fabric that was going to be in the room. I sent you kind of the layout. I did a little FaceTime with you throughout my whole home, telling you what my whole thing going on there was, right?
Yeah.
And then you sent me all these photos with my paintings in them, and choices and sizes, and should we go in this direction or this direction, and do you like it by 30 by 40 or 40 by, and I mean, you were really great to work with, because I could really see it, even though it wasn't in person. I could really get a sense of, this is going to be a perfect piece in that space. And I have a lot of beautiful artists that I love, and I love my house filled with real art, with real people. And I love the stories behind it. I love all that. But I knew that piece was going to start the whole flow of the home. It really was.
Well, I'm honored.
Yeah. I mean, that door, and that space, and then, you know, the other door and the art that starts that space and then moving through is a flow. And your part is integral in that. And I love it so much. And the process with you was so easy. So do you do that often with people, where they, like, you're Colorado.
Yes.
I'm here, you know.
Yes.
I'm here in the
East
South
Coast.
Shore of Massachusetts.
Yes.
And I was able to, like, get something that's so meaningful to me. through
Yeah.
your process. So you've nailed it. I mean, it's great.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, for me, I'm such a visual person that I can't imagine buying art remotely. And my husband and I buy a lot of our whole house is original art, and whenever we travel, and so. But I want people to know that they can get a real sense of it. Obviously, no two paintings are alike, so it's just a color palette kind of, and proportional. But that's where I've been. We have a graphic design firm for 22 years, so I work in the digital realm, and so I'll have people send me a photo of their space. You could send me your materials, any of that, and I work with people's interior designers a lot as well.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
And then that way people can get an idea, because quite often why I started doing it was that people would see a piece, they'd buy it, they'd get it home, and they're like, I love it, but I need it like 3 times as big, or
Yeah.
And so and then I had like a different commission where the person ordered something and then she was like, it's gorgeous, I totally miscalculated my size. This was before I used to do the mock-ups. And she's like, so I'm going to put that in the living room, and I want, this. And so I was like, okay, give me measurements. So it's really helped out, and people feel they feel confident moving forward. And I'm just always very open that this is a dance with materials like the beeswax, and but I can give you an idea on your proportions, on color palettes, sizing, and then the natural flow goes back in. Because for me, it's really important for me to paint from my heart and not my head. So it's a very intuitive process once I start to paint, and I may think I'm going one way and the medium will take me another way.
That's that trust the process.
Well, and I think especially in caustic, because I feel like so many artists, you grapple with like, is it done? Is it done? Do I push it further?
Right.
And this medium is the only medium I've ever worked in that truly will it's like it whispers.
It tells you,
it's done.
I'm done.
I'm like, okay.
I'm ready.
I trust
Ship
the
me
process.
off.
Yes.
So do you have your works in galleries and boutique shops, and what kind of places is your work?
So right now I'm in some different galleries down in New Jersey. I'm going to be up in Portsmouth and now in Rye as well. And then also kind of like higher end interior design boutiques carry my work. And I've met some really fabulous. It's funny, they've all been women-owned businesses, which is really interesting. But I've met some fabulous women, and it's just been lovely. Like I never thought I would end up doing art, but I mean, I'm almost 2 years into stepping away and letting my husband run the graphic design firm, and me really just switching to art, which.
And you have
is
a
like
family
a dream.
too. You have
yes,
kids.
I have 3 teenagers. Yes.
3 teenagers. Go, Mom, go.
Yeah. Thankfully, they're very independent kids, and they're willing to let me do what I do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was really open with them when I got asked to do that solo show. I was terrified. I was like, I didn't do 52. I did one big senior thesis painting in college, and so. I've just been really open with them that that's putting yourself out there is really scary, and it gets me outside my comfort zone. And I mean, you and I are chatting, but I can be very nervous when I'm trying to like put myself out into the world. So it's been really good to share this experience with them, so they get to see it.
Well, that's why I wanted people to see the yes, we are chatting, but to know that you're a human being who trusts this process, who has found the medium, who kind of has made a life change. Yeah. I mean, you have art in your soul and the ocean in your soul, but it kind of made a life change to say, okay, this is the direction I'm going. Yeah. And if you can plan it, you can try to do it, and you've done it. And I think that empowers a lot of people to say, oh, she was scared too. She went in there and she wasn't sure, and she had a degree in painting, but not in caustic, and hadn't really gone this. And now you have to go peddle your own wares.
Yes.
I mean, you have a helper now a little bit, a PR person, but you have to go in and face the people and say, this is me. Yeah. A representation of me, because it's my art. And do you love it? And will you buy it? And will you sell it? And will you?
Well, and I've also realized to trust that process as well.
Good.
And just to know that like, it's not a fit, it's not a fit.
Yeah.
And the right people do find my work. And I'm always amazed at just like how diverse, the people are that collect my work. And Yeah, I think that, and I've had so many people, especially moms, who have, you know, written to me on social media, or people that know me in the Aspen area that are just like, it's been so amazing to watch you just totally shift gears. Because it's like I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just got to the point where I've always done art. And I had this one wonderful, I'm kind of an art class junkie as well.
Yeah.
Like whereas other moms would take their surf trips and,
Yep.
you know, girls
too.
yoga trips
Me
or
too.
whatever, I
Yep.
always sign up for something once a year.
Yeah, workshops
Yeah.
or something like that. Me too.
Yeah.
It's good. I think.
And so
Keep you-
this one teacher she was the one that I was exploring. I told her, I was like, I'm signing up for your class, but I'm really coming to play with this idea. And she was like, yeah, because I'm the type of person that, like, I'm a business owner, I put that hat on the shelf, and then I'll be an artist for the weekend, and then I'm a mom. And,
Right.
and she just was really, she held me really accountable, which I cannot thank her enough for, that she was like, you can't put this hat on the shelf. Like, you are an artist, and you need to do this. And
Wow.
then when I
Tingles. I just got little
I know.
tingles.
And then when I went to the East Coast, somebody, you know, that's an art collector and in the interior design, you know, realm out there, and she just was like, "What are you doing graphic design? Like, nobody is doing this kind of modern coastal aspect. Like, you gotta
Yeah.
explore this more."
Yeah.
And so,
It's gorgeous.
yeah, and I truly believe if you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, it does roll more effortlessly, and yeah, so I'm really incredibly grateful and feel really blessed to be able to just be like so new at this and still enjoying the ride of it, which is
Wow.
fun.
Well said. Your website is Erin Rigney or
Yeah, no, ErinRigney.com.
Erin Rigney, RIGNEY
Mhm.
.com.
Yeah.
And people can see things that you have for sale,
Yes.
and they can also contact you there and get a piece of work themselves, or
Yeah.
or two or three, like
Yeah.
at me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And then I also list like in what areas my work is available to see in person, because I do feel like that's really important for people.
Which will be growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which will
Hopefully.
be growing here on your
God
trip.
willing.
Right? Well, it's so lovely. And to make a trip and use the trip to also be able to talk to people face to face and
Yeah.
show them your work face to face.
Really lovely. I love the
East.
East Coast. I mean, it's so a part of who I am,
Yeah.
even though I'm in the mountains. But to me, it's the
Coming home.
best of both worlds. I feel like I'm coming home, and I still get to have my snow time and my coastal time, for certain.
Well,
Thank you so much for
Oh.
having me as part of the project. The house looks stunning. I don't know if I should reveal
that's
that
okay.
yet.
Yeah.
The house looks stunning, and the art. I think you have such a wonderful eye for curating contemporary with realism, and you know, it's really beautiful. The setting is so soothing and spectacular.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, your piece is really important to me in that space. So thank you.
Awesome.
And continued success.
Excellent.